Something strange happens every time you go shopping these days.
The same items cost more than they did just months ago.
Your morning coffee, your groceries, your rent, everything creeps higher. And when you ask why, everyone gives you a different answer. Some blame greedy companies, others point to supply shortages or global crises. Politicians promise they'll fight inflation and make things affordable again.
But here's what nobody tells you. Prices almost never go back down.
They might slow their climb, but the direction is always upward.
Governments change, crises end, yet your dollar buys less every year.
What if this isn't random at all?
What if there's an actual reason built into how money works?
A mechanism so simple that once you see it, you can't unsee it. The uncomfortable truth is this has nothing to do with political parties. It operates the same way whether the economy is booming or crashing.
And the reason you've never heard it explained clearly is deeply intentional.
To understand what's happening now, we need to look at what changed. Your great-grandfather lived in a completely different monetary world than you do.
Back then, a dollar wasn't just a piece of paper with numbers on it.
It was a legal claim to a specific amount of gold sitting in a vault.
You could literally walk into a bank and trade paper for precious metal.
This meant money couldn't just be created out of thin air endlessly.
There was only so much gold, so there could only be so much money.
The system had problems, especially during depressions when everything froze up. But it did keep prices remarkably stable over very long periods of time. Then, during the last century, something fundamental broke and never got fixed. One by one, countries abandoned gold and switched to something called fiat money. Fiat is a Latin word meaning by decree or by command. It means money that has value simply because the government says it does. No gold behind it, no silver, no physical commodity backing it at all. Just trust, just law, just the promise that everyone will accept it. And this is where everything changes in ways most people never consider. Once money isn't tied to anything physical, creation becomes nearly limitless. Central banks can now increase the money supply with keystrokes on a computer. They call this monetary policy, and it sounds responsible and scientific. When the economy slows down, they create money to encourage spending and lending. When things overheat, they pull money back out to cool things down. On the surface, this seems smart, like having a thermostat for the economy.
But there's a mathematical problem hiding inside this system that never gets mentioned.
Think about the economy as a giant pizza that represents all available goods. That pizza gets cut into slices, and each slice represents $1. If there are 8 slices total, your $1 is 1/8 of everything. Now, the central bank decides to help the economy by creating more money.
Suddenly, there are 12 slices, but the pizza itself didn't grow at all. Your slice is now smaller, representing less of the total even though nothing changed. This is inflation. More currency competing for the same amount of actual stuff. And this happens on purpose. Every single year is official policy. Central banks openly admit they target about 2% inflation annually. 2% doesn't sound like much until you follow it over decades. At 2% yearly, money loses half its purchasing power every 35 years. But the real trick is understanding where new money enters the system first.
When a central bank creates money, it doesn't rain down equally on everyone. It flows first to banks, to governments, to big financial institutions. These early receivers spend this fresh money before prices have adjusted upward. They buy real estate, stocks, commodities, anything that holds real value. Then, slowly, the money spreads outward to businesses and eventually to workers. By the time it reaches your paycheck, prices have already started climbing. There's a name for this effect, the Cantillon Effect, after an old economist. It describes how inflation benefits those closest to money creation most, while those furthest away, regular working people, lose purchasing power silently. This creates a hidden transfer of wealth that happens constantly without announcement. You work just as hard, produce just as much, yet fall further behind. Meanwhile, assets owned by the wealthy inflate dramatically in nominal price. Look at what's happened to housing over the last 50 years. Houses didn't suddenly become twice as good or twice as big, but their prices in dollars have exploded far beyond wage growth. When central banks lower interest rates, borrowing becomes incredibly cheap. Investors with access to credit borrow heavily and buy assets immediately. This drives up the prices of homes, stocks, and anything limited in supply. Meanwhile, your savings account earns almost nothing while prices race ahead. Saving money in cash actually makes you poorer year after year. And there's another beneficiary of this system that's rarely discussed openly. Governments themselves owe enormous debts, trillions upon trillions of dollars. When you owe money and then inflate the currency, the debt becomes easier to repay. You borrowed valuable dollars yesterday, you repay with cheaper dollars tomorrow. This is financially brilliant for governments, but devastating for savers and workers. So when politicians need money for programs without raising visible taxes, they print. The cost shows up later as inflation, which feels like nobody's fault. It's the perfect invisible tax that people blame on corporations or bad luck.
Here's the realization that changes how you see the entire economic system. Inflation isn't an accident or an unfortunate side effect of complex economics. It's a core feature of modern money, built directly into the system's design. The moment currency disconnected from gold, printing money became politically irresistible. Every government on Earth faces the same impossible choice constantly: create money to solve immediate problems or maintain long-term currency stability. And every single time, they choose the immediate solution because elections are soon. Politicians need results within a few years, not stability decades from now. Central bankers fear economic collapse more than they fear gradual currency erosion. So the printing press runs continuously, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, but always running. Your children will pay far more for housing, education, and basic living, not because those things became scarce, but because money became abundant. This cycle won't end unless someone redesigns the entire monetary system. And redesigning it means admitting the current system has winners and losers by design. Nobody with power wants that conversation, so the mechanism continues quietly forever.
Something fascinating is starting to happen as more people figure this out. They're abandoning cash as a store of value and moving into scarce assets: gold, real estate, Bitcoin, anything that can't be created with a computer keystroke. They understand that holding paper money guarantees losing purchasing power over time. Governments are watching this exodus nervously and planning their response already. Central bank digital currencies would give authorities total control over money flows. The fight over the future of money is happening now, and most people don't even see it.